3 mining turrets, great big cargo pods and a bright orange colour scheme, it can only be the Argo MOLE. As the largest mining ship currently in game at time of recording, the MOLE is popular for both multi-crew and solo mining, but it's been over 3 years since the last review, and mining has changed a lot in that time. So, how does the MOLE perform in-game today? I'm Forrester, and in this video we'll explore the answer to that question by reviewing the currently flyable Argo MOLE, which is described on the Star Citizen website as a prospecting and mining ship. If you've seen other reviews on this channel, then you probably know what to expect, with this video following the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider it so you can be notified of future Star Citizen videos as they go live. And we'll start the tour for the MOLE by approaching from the back of the ship. The entry point is via an elevator which deploys kind of in the middle, kind of at the back. There's room on this elevator for a couple of people comfortably, although I have seen more head on board. This takes you up into a room at the back of the MOLE. At the far side there's some component access. And then on either side is a door. This takes you onto the side skirts of the Argo MOLE. There's an escape pod, as well as a mining turret. This is mirrored both on the port and starboard sides. If you are in landed configuration, this turret can bump the ground up, so one to be aware of if you're coming in for landing. As the turret connects back to the body of the MOLE, we'll hop out and head back into that room that the elevator comes up in. So as well as the 2 doors for the mining turrets, there's a ladder which takes you up to the upper deck. There's another airlocked door, and here is the habitation area. There's a kitchenette and a bench with plenty of room for 4. There's some more component access, and then moving to the back of the ship, we enter into the living space. There's an escape pod on either side, and 4 beds. The escape pods look the same as the ones by the turret. Right at the back is the Argo-style bathroom facility. As you see, it has everything that you could possibly need to do everything at the same time. Moving towards the front of the ship, there's an area with more component type access, very industrial feeling corridor, and a ladder which takes you down to the central mining turret. For those choosing to operate the MOLE solo, this is the usual turret that they would use. Heading back up, we'll move through past component access on either side, to the front of the ship, and here is the cockpit, with the pilot's chair on the left and co-pilot's chair on the right. The Mole comes armed with two size 2 weapons, controlled by the pilot, by default with 2 Badger repeaters on. They pretty much fire to the front of the ship, which is not the most useful position if defending whilst trying to escape. Against NPC targets the weapons work fine, but against a nimble and manoeuvring target, the Mole is just too slow to get on and stay on target. For a multi-crew ship, that does feel a little like a missed opportunity. Even just one turret up top, or a remote turret controlled by a co-pilot, might have helped to make the Mole feel a little more secure when out in the black. Defensively, the Mole carries 2 size 2 shield generators, which is probably more useful for dealing with accidental mining explosions rather than extended periods of taking fire. In case you were tempted to explore the option of using the mining turrets in an offensive capacity, you can put those thoughts out of your head. They're really only effective against rocks. Visibility out to the front of the Mole is actually pretty reasonable, at least for an industrial mining ship. There is extensive canopy glass all around, and although it feels a little like being inside an aquarium, it does mean that looking around is fairly easy. From a handling perspective, the Mole is an industrial mining ship and handles accordingly. It feels sluggish, slow to turn, and sort of lumbers around the place, but that feels appropriate for a ship like this, and that's not to say that the Mole is slow. It's a medium-sized ship and the speed values correspond to that. The SCM speed is 127 meters per second, rising to a top speed of 1089 meters per second, although that may be subject to change from patch 323 onwards. The VTOL thrusters are a nice addition, with rotating engine modules that can turn 90 degrees to help keep the ship in the air. For some high gravity locations that's necessary to help the Mole lift off the ground, as well as in forward flight in some places just to stop the nose from slowly drooping. Moreover, for players choosing to mine solo, it's a helpful way to keep the Mole in the air whilst hopping down to the mining turret to chip away at a rock. The stock quantum drive is pretty awful, well worth a change for anybody considering actually deploying and using the Mole. In terms of repair, rearm and refuel operations aboard the Mole, you might reasonably expect costs into the hundreds or thousands of Alpha UEC, depending on how long you've been away from home. Realistically, the main money-making option aboard is through mining, either dumping the raw materials to a refinery deck or further refining them to sell the ore. Doing so will more than cover your costs and by some margin, but probably not to the extent of other gameplay loops currently available, at least not in patch 322. By way of loadout changes, from a component standpoint, swapping out the quantum drive to something faster, like a crossfield for example, would be a big plus. It's also worth swapping out some of the mining lasers on the turrets, but frankly, there are so many possible configurations depending on how you're flying, and with how many others, it's difficult to have a definitive suggestion. It's far better to suggest checking out Red Monster Gaming and their various resources here on YouTube and on the dedicated website, which gives some great information for those looking to optimize their Mole. So, MOLE stands for Multi-Operator Laser Extractor, and for a multi-crew mining experience, the Mole is the natural choice. 3 mining turrets plus potentially another rollerboard for a pilot, and then for larger group options to incorporate scout ships or smaller prospectors to help grab mined goods. At least until an Arastra or Orion comes along, the Mole is the top of the line for mining operations and can be a pretty fun way to spend time as a group. It is possible to operate a Mole as a solo player, although you lose the braking power otherwise gained from 3 turrets. It's more powerful than a solo prospector in terms of rocks to break, but still regularly comes up against rocks that are too big. That somewhat recent change, which allows the pilot to enter mining mode for a quick scanning from the pilot's chair, does help with usability. Arguably, the solo prospector experience is a little more user-friendly, owing to everything, save for gadgets, being operated from the same cockpit chair rather than hopping around as you have to do in the Mole. The issue in the current patch is that mining isn't the most profitable venture, especially if you're out in a group. If you get a lucky break with a big rock of gold or quantanium, you're probably in for a good payoff, but for the most part the time it takes to find and break rocks means that profits are a little slower to come in, especially when sharing them amongst a crew, and especially compared to big payoff loops like salvage. That may all be in the balancing, so may change in the future, but as it is right now, mining is a fun way to pass the time and make a modest profit, rather than fill your bank account. The mole itself has a lot of redeeming features. The VTOL engines are more useful than you might imagine, the headlamps at the front are pleasantly helpful, and the 96 SCU of ore storage means that you can be out and gathering for a little while before having to head back. Coordinating mining turrets can be fun for a small group, and whilst the orange paint scheme on the base mole might be hit or miss depending on your tastes, it's certainly iconic. But clearly this is a specialised ship. You're just going to be mining, that's all. You wouldn't really use a mole for anything else. And with a price tag of $315 out of game, that's a steep price for something with a single use, especially when there are smaller options for solo gameplay, or bigger options for a similar sized group with the Arastra. At 5 million Alpha UEC, at least in 322 prices, the mole is a more compelling option, solely because it's the natural place for large group mining. That cash would buy 2.5 prospectors, but a mole can do so much more for a group than that. You'll not make that cash back as quickly as you would with a salvage ship, but mining can still be a fun way to spend some time for peaceful industrial types, and so the mole does offer something unique, currently at the top of that mining tree until alternatives come along. So it's probably worth for a group of friends or an organisation having 1 or 2 of these things, but probably not something that everybody needs. But what do you think of the Argo Mole? I'll be interested to read your thoughts in the video comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to help me understand what videos to make more of in future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube knows to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.